Welcome all for yet another video. Dr. RS and you, Science of Cosmetics and Personal Care Products. Today we are in part 44, Preparation of Emulsions. Part 44, Preparation of Emulsions. I am mentioning here cosmetic emulsions. Right? Students of pharmacy, they usually study the preparation of emulsions in the area of dispensing pharmacy. They will study about the dry gum method, the wet gum method, the bottle method. These are all for dispensing pharmacy. But what I am going to discuss here is not the dry gum method, wet gum method and bottle methods, which are mostly in the pharmaceutical area. But here how the cosmetic emulsions are made, how they are formulated and they are made, and these are the modern ways to make emulsions for consumers in a bulk quantity. And even in the pharmaceutical industry, the dermatological products are made in similar way, right? That is what I am going to cover. So, preparations of emulsions, we said emulsion is a biphasic liquid system containing two immiscible liquids in which one is finely dispersed in the other, stabilized by emulsifying agents. So here when you make emulsions, you will have two phases, of course, oil phase and water phase, right? In oil phase, oil, vegetable oil, mineral oil, like liquid paraffin, these are included, waxes, paraffin wax, microcrystalline wax, and beeswax, carnauba wax, candidilla wax of vegetable origin, all those things are used. I am not going to explain because we have covered completely all these things in the excipients, in the building blocks, right? In the building blocks we have covered all the things. Then fatty alcohols, cetyl, stearyl, cytosterol alcohol, fatty acid, mainly stearic acid, esters are many, right? There are a lot of esters, emollient esters that can be used in the oil phase, emulsifiers. Then other emollients, right? Apart from esters, there are silicones, right? Cocoa butter, shea butter, some other natural ingredients. So, and oil soluble actives in the oil phase. Water phase, water, humectants, glycerin, propylene glycol, butylene glycol, rheology modifiers, preservatives, other stabilizers, perfume, actives, color, actives come here again, right? So now, actives can be water soluble or oil soluble, but what happens, the actives, if they are not stable at high temperature. So now what happens when you can't introduce in the oil phase or in the water phase, because emulsions are the phases are heated to 75 to 80 degrees centigrade before one phase is added to the other. So what happens, you can't put the actives at that temperature, because if the actives are thermolabile, if it is heat sensitive. So in that case, actives are added along with the perfumes at the end, when the product is cooled around 50-45 degrees, right? So that is why actives here also. So this is the preparation where usually the outlet, see now homogenizers and all those things, this is the phase kettle and this is the main mixer. So what happens, the oil phase, see for example, you think that we are adding oil to water, oil phase to water phase. So water phase is taken in this main kettle and the oil phase is taken in the side kettle. So oil phase is melted and it is added to the water phase. So this is 75 to 80 degrees centigrade, this is also maintained at 75 to 80 degrees centigrade, and then oil phase is added to the water phase and the emulsion is made, right? this is broadly the preparation of the emulsion. So oil, this looks very simple as long as you have decided the ingredients for the oil phase, ingredients for the water phase. Perfume selection is a big procedure by itself. Lot of efforts have to be done to get the winner perfume. Then the actives, then proving the actives, that the base which is stable in the active with great sensories, all those things. No, this looks as simple because we assume your formulation is ready. That is the challenge, right? We formulation development we discussed in the last session. So once the formula is developed and it is there, this is how it has to be made, right? But there are certain aspects which you have to see. Whether oil phase to be added to the water phase or water phase to the oil phase. These are all done during the design of the emulsion, right? Some of these aspects are finalized in the lab scale batches itself. Some of these things come oil phase to water phase, even in the lab phase you have to have this correct, right? You have to decide this, which way you are going to add, and based on the product characteristics, the product type, what type of emulsion, whether it's oil in water or water in oil emulsion, or based on the product characteristics, lot of other aspects count. Based on that you decide these things, right, in the lab itself. Then incorporation of the emulsifier. Emulsifier can be added in the oil phase itself. High HLB emulsifier can be added in the water phase and low HLB in the oil phase. So your product design, formulation design will based on that you have to decide which phase you are going to add the emulsifier, right? So the emulsifier sometimes is formed in situ. For example, in the water phase you will use alkali, potassium hydroxide or triethanolamine, right? In the water phase, in the water phase you use alkali, potassium hydroxide or triethanolamine. In the oil phase you would have used stearic acid, right? When you add oil phase to water phase, potassium hydroxide or triethanolamine you have added in the water phase will react with that stearic acid to form potassium stearate or triethanolamine stearate, which are soaps, and they are the emulsifiers for the cream. So these type of emulsifiers are formed in situ, meaning during the processing itself the emulsifier is formed. So all these aspects can be decided in the designing stage where you will add the emulsifier. Rate of addition. See, rate of addition of oil to water or water to oil. This comes mostly in the pilot plant stage. No, if oil phase is added to the water phase, what is the rate of addition? No, can we just dump very fast the entire oil phase to the water phase, or we have to maintain a certain rate? So it is again in the pilot plant scale we have to see whether how the rate of addition impacts the emulsion characteristics, right? Even in the lab also we can do this study. If it is not impacting much, we need not give much to the rate. No, we can have the normal rate of addition. Otherwise, if the rate is specific to the emulsion, for example, some emulsions are designed in such a way that when you add one phase to the other, one type of emulsion is formed first, oil in water, which subsequently reverts into water into oil, water in oil. So that is called the reversal of the emulsion, right? So that happens in the processing stage itself. We discussed that. So those emulsions are very stable, but if the processing is not right, if you skip that reversal phase during the processing, by not maintaining the process right, it will start reversing on storage and the emulsion can break, crack. So you have to be very careful. Rate of addition of oil to water or water to oil, whatever it is. Rate of mixing while addition of the phases. Then homogenization time, that has to be specified. Cooling rate. Some emulsions can't be cooled very fast. Most of the emulsions, it takes the cooling rate, right? Because when you make a 1 ton batch and if you circulate water at 4 degrees centigrade around the cooling jacket, no, that's what the maximum you can arrive, but you should have a good scrappers and the mixer design. So cooling rate, we have to also evaluate if the cooling rate has any impact on the emulsion characteristics. If so, we have to get the correct cooling rate for the emulsion also. Stage at which preservatives are added. Most of the, preservatives are required in the water phase, right? We discussed in the antimicrobial preservatives, the factors affecting the efficacy of antimicrobial preservatives, right? Always the preservative should be available in the water phase. Most of the time and during formulation, preservatives are added to the oil phase, which is in oil phase it's more soluble, it's added in the oil phase. Water phase like triethanol, like phenoxyethanol added in the water phase at 45 degrees while after cooling the emulsion, right? Preservatives are added. We have to ensure when preservatives are added at that stage, it gets into all the ingredients we add at low temperature like perfume, color, preservative, all those things. We should ensure that it's uniformly mixed in the product, especially if you make a 1 ton batch, it has to be uniformly mixed in the product, right? Stage at which preservatives added, that has to be finalized. Stage at which actives have to be added. I told you, if actives can be oil soluble actives, water soluble actives, can we add in the initial stage itself, or if the active is not thermostable, we have to add in the final stage, right? Or we discussed that the two phases here, alkali can be added, stearic acid and alkali will react to form soap, right? So an active might be water soluble, but it's not stable at a high pH. You can't add this in the water phase initially, because in the presence of alkali, the active will get degraded. So you have to be very, you can't add here in the water phase. So in that case, as soon as the emulsification is over, you can add the water phase. You can add the active, dissolve in water and then add to the emulsion and get it into the emulsion. So you have to know where to add the actives, at what stage the actives have to be added. So stage of addition of rheology modifying agents. For example, some of the clays like Begum, you introduce into the water phase itself, blend in the water phase well before adding the oil phase. Rheology modifiers like carbapol, carbamers, you add after forming the emulsion at little higher temperature, right, before cooling. After homogenization, before cooling, you add neutralize, because if you add in the water phase itself, it can thicken the water phase and it can affect the emulsification process, right? Now pre-neutralized carbapol has come, which we can directly add after the emulsification. So what is the rheology modifier you are using, and based on that you have to decide which stage you should add the rheology modifiers, right? Stage at which addition of rheology modifying agent, temperature of filling, that is very rarely. See, cold streams, some cold creams, no, it's filled at 60 degrees in the bottle, pass through cooling tunnel, and then it will set in the cooling the product will set in the container when it passes through the cooling tunnel, and when it comes out, it will be very good, no, surface, concave surface with shining surface. But now very few companies it's not done at all. Sometimes if the technology comes again, no, then the temperature if the temperature of filling is 55 to 60 degrees, then you have to design the perfume in such a way, right? It can't be a perfume which is not stable at that temperature. It has to be a good the perfume, and temperature of filling affects most of the other factors also. Then color and perfume addition. Usually color and perfume are added at the end stage, right? Color and perfume are added at 45 degrees and then mixed into the product. So there are a lot of aspects which you have to be thorough, you have to study before between the lab batches and the pilot plant batches before we take it to the factory trials, right? This is what. So usually in the lab, propeller mixer is used, no? To a small lab scale propeller mixture is there also. So propeller mixer is used for the cooling. During the cooling stage, propeller mixer is used, and then for the oil phase cooling, oil phase heating, no? Oil phase or water phase. Water phase is if you are adding oil to water, right? Water phase will be in the main vessel. Oil phase will be in the side vessel. So there also you can mix with a propeller mixer, right? Or it's a uniform solution only. So you can heat it and mix it with a spatula, or no, in the lab I am telling you, not in the factory. You need a propeller mixer even in the phase vessels, right? Phase melting vessels, oil phase melting vessels, you should have a propeller mixer. So this is a typical propeller mixer that is used in the lab, and there are homogenizers. This is one such homogenizer made by Silver Suns, the company, a Silver Sun homogenizer. So Silver Sun homogenizer is widely used. It's used in the factories, and it's used in the laboratory also, in the lab batches also. Silver Sun homogenizer is used. Silver Sun has a stator and a rotor, and the fluid is sucked in, and in between the rotor and the stator, by the centrifugal force, the liquid is pumped in, the particles are pumped in, and the particle size is reduced. Now we can just see a video on how the homogenizer work, this design of homogenizer works to reduce the particle size.
Substantially reduces mixing times, but also allows the machine the ability to operate far beyond the capabilities of a conventional agitator. Here's how it works. The high-speed rotation of the rotor exerts a powerful suction, drawing liquid and solid materials upwards into the workhead. Centrifugal force then drives the materials towards the periphery of the workhead, where they are rapidly milled between the rotor blades and the stator. This is followed by intense hydraulic shear, as the materials are forced out through the perforations and back into the mix. Fresh material is continually drawn into the workhead, resulting in a circulatory pattern of mixing all below the surface. As a result, there is little or no turbulence above the surface, and aeration is reduced.
This is yet another design of a homogenizer made by IKA, and it also works on the same principle as stator and the rotor, right? Now we will see how a lab batch of an emulsion is made, a moisturizing lotion is made, and in that lab batch this model of homogenizer is being used.
Hi, today I am going to make a moisturizing lotion. I have weighed the oil phase including emulsifier and the water phase separately. Now I am heating both the phases in a water bath to 80 degrees centigrade. Now I am going to keep the main vessel containing the water phase in the homogenizer. Then I am adding the heated oil phase to the main vessel. The temperature of the main vessel is maintained at 75 degrees centigrade for 15 minutes with constant mixing, which is adequate to form a stable emulsion. Now I am shifting from homogenizer to stirrer with cold water bath to bring it down to room temperature. Finally, I am going to add temperature sensitive ingredients such as preservative and perfume with sufficient mixing. Now I have stopped the stirrer and taken the vessel out. The moisturizing lotion is done.
Now let us see some of the designs of the manufacturing vessels used in the factory and layout of the manufacturing vessels in a factory setup. So this mixer has inbuilt high shear homogenizer. This is a high shear homogenizer which is inbuilt. So as soon as I add the oil phase and the water phase, the product has to be homogenized, and then this homogenizer is used, right? The inbuilt homogenizer is used, and this is the product outlet. Right? This is one type of configuration that can be used for manufacturing, and the other type is the online homogenization, right? So now the products are made and the homogenizer is here, right? The homogenizer here, the product is circulated. The product is circulated, and then while getting circulated, it gets homogenized. It's all a factory model. This is called the online homogenization, and this is the batch homogenization. It's an inbuilt homogenizer here. Here it's an online homogenizer. Right. So the type of mixers used, and it's when we discuss, right, if at all it's required, we will discuss the pharmaceutical engineering or cosmetic plant engineering. Cosmetic plant engineering we will discuss about the type of homogenizers, the baffles, and the type of mixers, the type of the design of the kettles, right? If cosmetic formulation development people are interested in this, we can. It's again the pilot plant handled by engineers have all the details on these equipments also, and that is very important. As a manufacturing chemist or as a product development chemist, we should have a thorough knowledge on the type of mixers used for emulsion, type of homogenizers used for emulsions in the factory, right? So that we design the product accordingly. Sometimes you design a product, and for that product the factory can't be rebuilt again with a new homogenizers and everything installed. So there will be a set of homogenizers and the mixing configuration that will be available in your factory. So it's very important that you have to design your product in such a way that the factory, the available establishment, the available design, the equipment design in the factory is enough for your product. Unless or otherwise it's totally a product with very high volume and it's novel formula, and you need a totally different type of manufacturing setups, right? So that is one thing. And this is how in a factory actually, see, you can see now these are the phase vessels. So the phase vessel, if it is an oil phase, the oil phase is taken here, and this is the main vessel, water phase, which is, or when you add water to oil, oil phase is taken here. When you add oil to water, water phase is taken here, right? Water phase is taken here and then heated to, this is also steam jacketed, this is also steam jacketed and also jacketed with cold water circulation for cooling. And then once they are 75 to 80 degrees, the one phase is pumped into the other, and then emulsified, mixed, vacuum, all the other processes, cooling, everything. So this can be the carbopol dispersing vessel, or you can, the actives are mixed in this and then added to the bulk directly. So now there can be another thing, by gravity they add. These vessels are designed in the in a separate floor here, and then from there it is added like under gravity, right? So that design is also there in most of the old factories. Here it requires a pump and it requires a maintenance of these things, because the waxes, it always blocks this area. If your oil phase contain waxes, and there can be a block. So this is one thing, and by gravity also you can add. It will be in the lower stage. The mixing vessel will be at the lower stage, and the phase vessel will be in the higher stage, higher platform, right? So it will be like, the platform is like this, it will be like this, the outlet will come and it will be in the inlet of the main phase vessel. So the factory can be, the phase vessels can be designed in that way also. It depends upon the design of your factory. And this is what I would like to add about the preparation of emulsions. We will get in touch in the next session. Till then, bye, be safe, be smiling. Thank you.